National Catholic Secretariat, the Christian Council, and the Ghana Pentecostal Council, the Federation of Muslim Councils and Ahmadiyya Missions, the training institutions of journalists and communicators, the Ghana Advertising Association, and the Institute of Public Relations of Ghana, and the Ghana Association of Teachers. B, 2 representatives nominated by the Ghana Journalists Association, 2 persons appointed by the President, and 3 persons nominated by Parliament. The Commission shall elect its own chairman. 167 says, it talks about the functions of the National Media Commission. And the functions of the National Media Commission are 1A, to promote and ensure the freedom and independence of the press for mass communication or information. B, to take all appropriate measures to ensure that the establishment and maintenance of the highest journalistic standards in the mass media, including the investigation, mediation, and settlement of complaints made against or by the press or any other mass media. 3, insulate the state-owned media from governmental control. D, to make regulations by constitutional instrument for the registration of newspapers and other publications, except that the regulations shall not provide for the exercise of any discretion or control over the professional functions of a person engaged in the production of newspapers or any other means of mass communication. And E, to perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law not inconsistent with this constitution. It talks about Article 168, where it says the Commission shall appoint the chairman and other members of the governing bodies of public corporations managing the state-owned media in consultation with the President. 169, editors of the state-owned media shall be appointed by the governing bodies of the respective corporations in consultation with the Public Services Commission. Article 170 says the Commission shall appoint the officers and other employees of the Commission in consultation with the Public Services Commission. And the administrative expenses of the National Media Commission, including salaries, allowances, and pensions payable to or in respect of persons serving with the Commission, shall be charged on the consolidated fund. 1726, except or as otherwise provided by this Constitution or by any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution, the National Media Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority in the performance of its functions. 173, subject to Article 167 of this Constitution, the National Media Commission shall not exercise any control or direction over the professional functions of the person engaged in the production of newspapers or any other means of communication. So there's the independence of the communication, and then there's also the independence of journalists, as stated in the Constitution boldly. Now, let's hear some voices. Justice Abdullah is a private legal practitioner. He is also a law lecturer, and he's been sharing his thoughts about an ongoing issue where the management and leadership of ONUA TV and ONUA Radio, or ONUA FM, have decided that the National Media Commission have not been forthright in trying to crack the whip on what they think has been unprofessional. And some of the utterances and the wording of what the National Media Commission, led by its executive secretary, Mr. George Sapon, who himself has practiced in the media before, is now a lawyer and is there. He's been, if you like, arguably the longest serving executive secretary of the Media Commission. He has been writing back and forth. First, not Justice Abdullah. We'll listen to lawyer Martin Kpebu. He is also a very well-known private legal practitioner. And for those who are students of the law, there's Martin Kpebu 1 and 2, where, Kpebu, for example, had gone to court to enforce human rights issues and says that, well, offenses that hitherto were not bailable are now bailable. There's another thing that he went to court to find, but that's not the subject of the conversation. The subject of the conversation is what he has been saying regarding press freedom and what the activities of the National Media Commission has been relative to their inference and decision on the 2 stations in Accra, ONUA 95.1 FM and ONUA TV, a general power, and it's a host of the morning show, Captain Smart. Listen.
When we say this case, briefly, the facts as I've gleaned before the interview is that Captain Smart is said to have stated that the military hierarchy, CDS and some people, had chopped some money. Now, so this is the point. These are the brief facts that I have gleaned. The first thing is that if you look at the Constitution, as you've rightly stated, Article 167 says that the NMC should promote freedom and independence of the media. Then it goes on to also say that the NMC should investigate and settle complaints and mediate complaints, okay? And of course, maintain high journalistic standards, etc. So my emphasis is on the word investigate. Let me see if I can get my constitution to quote. So when you are asked to investigate, I'm thinking that investigations would ordinarily involve calling the parties who are alleged to have done something wrong. So if Captain Smart is saying people have stolen money, I think the easiest and most natural thing to do is to call him to this an investigative committee or panel. And the NMC has done that in the past. You remember when Manasseh Awini Azure did the militia in the city, this investigation, the documentary where the presidency were using vigilante to provide security for him. Yes, the presidency wasn't happy. They reported it to the National Media Commission. The National Media Commission set up a committee. So Samson Ladi Ayenini, ONUA FM, they went to represent Manasseh, right? And evidence was taken, blah, blah, blah. You know, even through it, ONUA FM indicated that Mr. Ayebuafu was not being independent. He was the president's nominee on the NMC, and he was looming very large in the investigations and the decisions of the panel. That is something we've not forgotten. It's on the net. You see that there is an article on his role in the decision in that case. It created some muddy situation, very, very untoward, how the decision in that case was reached. But that aside, let's come back here. The point is that in that Manasseh this documentary, that investigation, the NMC set up a committee, and I know they have an adjudication committee, etc. So simple question, Mr. Okanse, is that why is the NMC not investigating this matter formally and has rather gone ahead straight away to issue a decision? How did the NMC reach the decision? After that, there should be what? A hearing. So from me, in granting this interview, the inquiries are made show that they hadn't invited ONUA TV and Captain Smart to any investigative hearing. They hadn't been questioned about the basis for the comments Captain Smart made, etc. And I understand Media General has written to the NMC a number of times, but has received no responses. So in that case, I don't see Article 167 being adhered to. The NMC also lives under the law. We are all citizens. The Constitution guides all of us, our conduct. 167 says NMC should investigate complaints. Investigations minima would require that the NMC hears from both complainant and the respondent, or let me use the word loosely here, accused. You must hear. It's a natural principle. It's a basic principle of natural law, which we've put in the laws that we use in our procedural laws in court, that a judge hears both sides. That's the normal rule. You only do ex parte for very limited and small matters. And that's ex parte, like you go, one side goes before a judge to get an injunction order. And that one usually is for things like maybe somebody is building on your land, Mr. Okanse, somebody's encroaching, but you don't see his face. So if you are trying to look for him to serve him when you've sued him, by the time you get him, maybe 3 months or 6 months later, so by then he would have finished putting up the building. So in matters like that, you can go before the judge. I mean, you file the court case, and so you're allowed to go before the judge ex parte to get an order to stop him. So if you go and stop him with the court order and he thinks he has a better case, he will come quickly to say he wants to set it aside, etc. So the point I'm making is that you alone going before a judge is for very limited purposes. So the general rule is that if somebody is accused of something, he has to be heard. Anybody, and it's not only in court that we do that, administrative bodies are also required to do the same. That's why Article 23 says that administrative bodies should be fair and impartial. They should use the law. Administrative bodies have to act fairly. And that fairness will require that before you take a decision against somebody, you must at least hear him out. And so I understand Media General and ONUA TV have written to NMC a number of times. They've not received any responses. We'll urge the NMC to respond, set up a panel. Let the parties go before the panel. Let each party put up its case. Then at the end, then you give your ruling. Yes, that is what the Constitution requires by saying that investigate complaints. The Constitution didn't say NMC, upon just hearing a complainant, would issue any decisions or directives straight away. It says investigate. That's my emphasis. That's what is in Article 167. So, Council, maybe should I get listen, will I be given a chance to read it? I think it will help.
So that was Lawyer Martin Kwebwe. We read for you Article 167 already, and the going issues, I mean, quite funny if you ask me, but we'll get beyond that. A few more voices that will play for you and guide you through. But just so you know what the National Media Commission has been writing, and the National Media Commission has been putting out some information. The initial one was on the 16th of December, where the 16th of November 2023, where the National Media Commission and the immediate release says that report on NMC NCA joint monitoring as part of our collaboration to improve the quality of broadcasting in Ghana. The National Media Commission and the National Communications Authority launched a joint project on October 31 to identify and address defects in broadcast content using a community standards approach. The project democratizes the involvement of citizens by highlighting their voice in regulatory interventions. Through the toll-free number 0800 419 666, citizens are empowered to call into a monitoring center to make their voices heard on the performance of broadcasting stations, especially in relation to content they consider unacceptable by the standards of the media ethics, Ghanaian culture, traditions, and norms. A half-month report shows that the public had concerns about 318 incidents on television, made up of 224 money doubling incidents, 83 money ritual, 24 fake lotteries, 18 occultic practices, 13 incidents of pornography, and the rest of the complaints related to fake loan schemes and people seeking to use fraudulent means to extract money from others. Many of the complaints were against the following stations. One, Asumafo TV 19 times, Adwenpa TV 19 times, Eagle TV 18 times. There's also Best TV 16 times, Energy TV 16 times, Diamond TV 15 times, X TV 15 times, Asumje TV 14 times, and Funny TV 14 times, Advice TV 14 times, Big TV 11 times, Passion TV 11 times, and Carbon TV 11 times, Seekers TV 10 times, and Elephant TV 10 times. In addition to the above-mentioned complaints from citizens, the Commission's own professional assessment revealed two dangerous broadcasts with implications of national cohesion that demanded immediate regulatory intervention. While one of them involving Power FM has been resolved, the other involving ONUA TV or radio, or ONUA FM as we know it, remains outstanding. The Commission will announce its decision on this matter soon. We shall also brief the public on our decision on the TV stations listed above. We commend the leadership and staff of the National Media Commission, the National Communications Authority, for their unwavering cooperation in this project. It is in their productive investments that has made this possible. We also commend the Ghana Journalists Association, the Independent Broadcasters Association, and civil society, especially the Media Foundation for West Africa, for their support. Finally, we commend the active citizens who demonstrated their commitment to quality broadcasting by taking time to make the recorded complaints. We encourage all citizens to join hands in uplifting the quality of broadcasting in Ghana. For the stations lifted above, we hereby serve them notice to cease and desist from those activities. Otherwise, there will be severe consequences. Signed by George Sapon. He's the executive secretary of the National Media Commission. So the stations that are showing pornography, are doing fake monies and all of that, they will be sent notices. Well, there's also a final caution that was written to ONUA TV and ONUA Radio. Says the chairman, board of directors, ONUA TV, ONUA FM, Media General Ghana Limited, 12 Kanda Avenue, Accra. And this was supposed to be a direct correspondent between the National Media Commission and the chairman of the board of directors of ONUA TV and ONUA FM, but it was found in the public domain. And final caution against insightful broadcast. That's what's here. It says, last week, your station carried an insightful broadcast in which Captain Smart directly insulted the chief of the defense staff and other commanders of the Ghana Armed Forces as beasts. He claimed the officers embezzled monies meant for soldiers on peacekeeping operations, but offered no evidence to back his claims. This was as dangerous as it was unprofessional. You may recall that on December 8, 2022, we drew your attention to the use of your station to promote violence against the state and your management's lack of capacity to address the same. This was after we had written to your management on December 2, 2022. It is of concern to us that the behavior persists. If that behavior persists after we drew the board's attention, we are now compelled to come to the board again as a way of giving the company a last opportunity for internal gatekeeping, not a last opportunity to appear before an investigative panel as the lawyers have said that the NMC should have done, and which the law, the NMC law, Act 449, will be read to you shortly. And then they said, well, we ask that you put in place, you put in measures to stop the dangerous behavior of the station and improve the station's capacity for regulatory compliance. We also ask the station to withdraw the insult and apologize to the CDS and its commanders. We further ask the station to apologize to the Ghanaian public for the use of vulgar language. We expect you to undertake the above and present evidence of same to us before November 19, 2023, after which date you may hear from the commission. Yours faithfully, George Sapon, Executive Secretary. This was written as a warning. Now, there's also a final caution that was written from the stables of the NMC, dated November 14. And it says, no, it's not November 14. There's a very final one, which I'll read to you, and then we'll get into the law, the legal aspects. It's dated the 21st of November, 2023. The board secretary, ONUA TV, ONUA FM, Media General Ghana Limited, 12 Kanda Avenue, Accra. Final caution against insightful broadcast. Your letter of November 20, 2023 does not address the regulatory directives contained in ours of November 14. Instead, you raise the three extraneous issues which we address below. 1, ownership of station. You argue in your letter that the commission's letter addressed to the board chairman of the Media General is not properly directed, as ONUA TV is a registered entity under Media General Television Limited, and as such is a separate legal entity with its independent board of directors. Our checks at the NCA show that upon your request, NCA by a letter dated November 17, 2023, approved the transfer of the authorization for ONUA FM and ONUA TV to Media General. So on record, the Media General is the holder of the frequency authorization. Your claim that a separate legal entity is in control outside the approved entity has major legal implications that we are duty bound to bring to the attention of the NCA, in addition to the subject matter of our regional correspondence. Since you are familiar with the Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775, you must be aware of the consequences. 2, mandate of the NMC, Article 167B, which I've read to you, of the Constitution of the 1992 Constitution, empowers NMC to take all appropriate measures to ensure that the establishment and maintenance of the highest journalistic standards in the mass media, including the investigation, mediation, and settlement of complaints made against any or by the press or other mass media. Emphasis added, your lawyers should have no difficulty in explaining this to you. That is that the commission has power to take all appropriate measures, and that the mediation and settlement constitute an inexhaustive list of tools that the commission may use to achieve its object. Ordinarily, we would not say more beyond this. However, since this is the second time you have willfully submitted yourself to a misreading of the law, we feel obliged to point out to you that the law could not have intended that when we are faced with a broadcaster inciting mutiny within the armed forces, as you are doing, we should be constrained by complaint settlement procedures. You know the story of Nero fiddling while ancient Roman burned. The National Media Commission will not do that today when in Niger, Chad, Guinea, Gabon, Burkina, Sudan, and twice in Mali there have been military insurrections. 3. Transmittal of correspondence. We are unable to treat this as a priority until the substantive directives contained in our letters on November 14, 2023 have been carried out. We consider your letter a red herring strategy to avoid taking responsibility for your actions. Yet, we are prepared to extend our deadline to Friday, November 24, 2023, after which we may act without any further reference to you. Yours faithfully, that's George Sapon, the Executive Secretary. And I want you to note there the details of the letters that have been written out there by Mr. George Sapon, who's the Executive Secretary, acting on behalf of the National Media Commission. And I've showed you what the composition of the National Media Commission is at this particular point in time. And now at 52 minutes after, it will go to the response from the board chairman of the Media General, stated 29th. It's actually a complaint to the chairman of the National Media Commission in Accra. It says, "Dear Sir, complaint against the Executive Secretary. The attention of the Board of Media General Ghana Limited has been drawn to a letter from the Executive Secretary of NMC dated 28 November 2023 to the Advertisers Association of Ghana, AAG, in which the NMC Executive Secretary has taken a rather unprecedented step to notify them of that any further steps that they are taking to advertise on ONUA TV and ONUA FM are done at their own risk. That any further steps that are taken to advertise on ONUA TV and ONUA FM are done at their own risk. The board takes a serious view of this matter. This illegal action follows other illegal steps taken by the NMC, which we had responded to earlier. We addressed a copy of our letter dated the 27th of November 2023 to you and have attached another copy to this letter for ease of reference. As you may be aware, the Executive Secretary wrote to the Chairman of Media General on the 14th of November 2023 complaining of a broadcast carried simultaneously on ONUA TV and ONUA FM. In that same letter, and without giving the two channels an opportunity to be heard as required by natural justice, the Constitution and the NMC's own establishment law, he imposed sanctions on them. The ONUA stations responded, drawing attention to the need to be given a hearing as required by the law. The Executive Secretary, in apparent anger, refused to give them a hearing and rather threatened them with a final warning. He went further in disparaging terms to describe the Media General Board as lacking the capacity to manage the organization. The Media General Board takes serious exception to the actions and posture of the Executive Secretary and would ask the NMC to take immediate steps to regularize all the missteps of the Executive Secretary in targeting ONUA TV and ONUA FM for purposes known to him. In fact, by refusing to go by the normal procedure of resolving such matters, we suspect that his real intention is to interfere with the editorial independence of all the stations in the Media General Group. This, we believe, is a major threat to the media in Ghana and must not be allowed to happen. The NMC was established by the Constitution to promote and ensure the freedom and independence of the media for mass communication and information. And we will take all steps necessary to ensure that the NMC is not rather used to trample on media independence for political or any other purposes. We once again ask the Commission to observe the proper processes of resolving complaints by giving ONUA TV and ONUA FM a hearing at the appropriate forum to deal with the complaints, if any. We would want to assure you that we are resolved to work with the NMC towards achieving the highest standards of journalism and media practice in the country. For and on behalf of ONUA Group Board, this is signed by Honorable Kojo. He's a group chairman for the Media General parent company of ONUA. It's copied to the National Media Commission members and the NMC Complaints Settlements Committee. I'll go to a summary of what has the chronology of the events that has happened so far, and then I will share with you portions of the NMC's own acts, the establishment law of the National Media Commission, and what it has to say specifically when a matter is brought before it. Now, from where we sit here as a Sunrise production team, we know that the National Media Commission has failed to give ONUA FM, ONUA TV a hearing on any complaints it may have received. We have not seen this complaint yet. We do not know about it. It has not been in any of the leaked correspondences in the public domain. Also, the National Media Commission has failed to follow the due process in its settlement procedure. We also do know that the National Media Commission has no legal rights or powers to suspend any license or authorization held by ONUA FM or ONUA TV. We also maintain that the editorial independence of ONUA TV, ONUA FM, has to protect the journalists under the MG group and across the country from political harassment or interference, as I just read to you. We also know that the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission is working against the industry rather than protect it. If you look at the correspondences that we have read to you, it does appear that there is some interest or agenda, as our board chair has said. Now, the Media General finds the actions and posture of the NMC Executive Secretary arbitrary, unconstitutional, and against the principles of natural justice. And we are not the only ones who share this view, because Professor Kweku Asare, popularly known as Kweku Azar, has also shared similar in a Facebook page. We also do know, and we find the actions and posture of the National Media Commission Executive Secretary arbitrary, unconstitutional, and against the principles of natural justice. The National Media Commission constituted itself into a complainant, a prosecutor, and a judge in a complaint, and cannot be trusted to be fair and impartial arbiter in any case against ONUA FM or ONUA TV. The National Media Commission's Executive Secretary also threatened to suspend the frequencies of ONUA TV, ONUA FM, and subsequently secretly wrote to the Advertisers Association of Ghana that if they advertise with us, they're doing that at their own risk. Media General will cooperate with the NMC, but will not be intimidated and shall act to protect its business and the editorial independence. We'll talk to Professor Kofi Mensah. We're looking at the final one, how the business has to be protected and how the individuals working within the business giving you education, information, as is to be done by journalists as guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana 1992. But first, before we talk to Prof, and I welcome Prof. Prof, good morning. How are you?
Johnny, I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
And I'm sure you're doing well as well.
I'm greater than Accra. Prof, I'll come to you in a bit. I have here before me the NMC Act 1993, Act 449, and I'll go to Part 3, that's the complaint settlement. And Section 12 says that there shall be a settlement committee. 1, without prejudice to Section 10 of this Act, there is thereby established a complaint settlement committee of the Commission, hereafter referred to as the Settlement Committee. 2, the Settlement Committee shall consist of the Chairman of the Commission and 6 members of the Commission, 3 of whom shall be persons not ordinarily employed or involved in the media industry. Section 13, complaints may be lodged with the Commission. 1, a person aggrieved by a publication or by the act or omission of any journalist, newspaper proprietor, a publisher, or any person in respect of any publication in the media may lodge a complaint against the editor, publisher, proprietor, and any other person before the Commission. 3, a person who has lodged a complaint with the Commission shall, unless he withdraws the complaint, exhaust all avenues within available for settling the issues by the Commission before a recourse to the courts. 14, reference to the Settlement Committee. 1, a complaint lodged with the Commission shall be referred to the Settlement Committee, which shall make such further investigation into the complaint as it considers necessary. 2, the Settlement Committee may consider both documentary and oral evidence before provided by the parties and shall rule on the issues as it considers just in all circumstances of the case. 15, ruling of the settlement case, and then I said we should just leave it there, because then these are the remedies that apply. Prof, I ask you, as a trainer of journalists, as a participant within the discourse in the federance of our democracy, what are your own thoughts about the back and forth between the National Media Commission and ONUA TV and ONUA FM?
Johnny, I think that it's been a matter of concern for all of us. In fact, there is a report that we actually, presenting to CDD on the media environment. And it's very saddening because if institutions that are supposed to promote democracy in a broader sense, in a diversity, are the ones who are actually clamping down on diversity and democracy. I think that is very worrying because clearly the NMC, position is in no way actually promotes the kind of responsibilities that have been actually prescribed for them within the democratic space. And so one stands to wonder whether indeed the institutions are clearly or are clear in terms of their mandate. It is nowhere near what was actually envisioned and enshrined in their act, for example. So for me, I think that we need to stand up to that kind of practices. We need to stand up to that kind of positions and postures. And every meaningful Ghanaian should really voice out for that because it's quite worrying indeed.
As it stands now, the National Media Commission, and it has a very rich composition. If you look at it, GBA, everybody, GJA, everybody is there. The National Media Commission has not given an opportunity to ONUA FM and ONUA TV to come and answer to whatever complaints may have been lodged there. We don't know who the complainant is. But the NMC has gone ahead to make directives, including even warning the Advertisers Association of Ghana not to engage in any business with ONUA FM and ONUA TV. Is Media General asking for too much to be called to the table to be heard?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the prescriptions are clear in terms of settlement. Whoever has actually had access to that particular document would realize that the prescriptions are clear. Now, if even in ordinary circumstances, if you have an issue, it takes two parties to really iron out it. You would have to have a certain, the two sides clearly, laid out. And then, of course, the necessary, resolutions could actually be put forward. But for you to write a letter to a certain body telling them that they stand a risk of dealing with them, then, of course, somebody would ask about your intentions for doing so. In any case, is that the first step? Because obviously, if you hadn't actually gone into the processes of, resolving the issue, how then do you write a letter to a certain body saying that you deal with them at your own risk? That tells you that there's a prejudicial position. There's a predetermined position that they want to embark on. But I think that we shouldn't allow that to stand. Because if we do, then of course we're going into the path that is very unsustainable for our democracy. Remember, this particular, NMC's regime had actually been faulted on a number of issues. I mean, people have actually expressed concerns about clampdown, on journalism and journalistic institutions, for example. And that is not a clear, signal. For the last 8 years, people have raised concerns. And don't forget, in the broader report, global report on media freedom, etc., Ghana consistently keeps declining. And it is shocking that a state institution that is supposed to protect that environment is the one actually being at the forefront of this. And we shouldn't actually tolerate it at all. Because if you have had a prescription of how to deal with an issue, and you have been told that a certain party must be invited to the table, why then do you, Nicodemously send a letter to a certain body to say that you do not have to do business? What is the intention for that? So beyond even business, we're talking about democracy, we're talking about diversity in the system, we're talking about, unemployment issues here. And for me, I even look at that as secondary because the first rule of the media is to protect the democracy and the diversity that we enjoy. The current report that we're supposed to submit to CDD actually clearly states that there has been a shrinking of that particular, environment of diversity. And it's worrying. It is a report that we are presenting at 2:00. And look at what is actually happening. So I think that the people, or the governance structure of NMC must see this as a concern. Whoever is responsible, whoever is actually a stakeholder in this, must show absolute concern. I think all Ghanaians are actually stakeholders in this particular institution. We shouldn't let that stand. We should fight and make sure that the NMC knows their role, that their role is to protect the democracy and the diversity that we have, not to clamp down come down on it, because what they're doing is exactly the opposite of their mandate. Clamping down on diversity, democracy, freedom. We cannot allow that to stand.
Let me bring in Mr. Cecil Sonkwa Mills. He is the president of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association of Ghana. Sir, thank you very much for your time. How are you?
I'm fine, Johnny.
And would you say all is fine, NMC and the actions they are taking regarding not affording one of your own an opportunity to explain themselves, to know who the complainant is, as is situated within the establishment law and the Constitution of the Republic?
Good morning to your listeners. In fact, this was brought to our notice late yesterday by some stations. And you will notice that with all the correspondence that had been going back and forth, it's coincidentally, we had not been copied on any of the correspondence. And so we had to speak and find out this. Now, I find this quite unusual based on the relationship that we had built forward, even with the launch of the platform to monitor issues on TV stations, which we did about a month ago. So we are actually a bit disappointed that we did not. We thought there were ways that we could maybe contribute if there was an issue, like we've always done, so we can have things done appropriately and fairly. But I think we would come up formally with a statement. But I think NMC could have looked at a couple of other options than rather heading this way. Now, there are issues, so we also interact with our legal team to understand.
Right.
Because there's a major reference to a memorandum of cooperation, and all those things have a certain meaning. Be it, we will want to get a proper interpretation if that is even strong legally enough as a basis to start operating. But I think we could have found a better way out than moving in this drastic direction.
So now the Advertisers Association of Ghana have been told not to deal with ONUA TV and ONUA FM. They do that at their own risk. I don't know. You're a major stakeholder within the space. How does that sound to you?
And that is completely off the books. I don't know where that also. That's why I'm saying that the ways we could have done this, but things have gone quite, has been spread all over the place. I don't know how AAG came into this issue directly with the NMC. So there are a lot of things that are quite confusing.
I'm looking at the document, a court judgment before me now. Superior Court of Judicature, Supreme Court AD 2016. Koram Akufo, Mrs. JSC, presiding. Doche JSC, Bafoboni JSC, Akotobanfo, Mrs. JSC, Benin JSC, Akamba JSC, Paman JSC, and the writ number is J1/4/2016, dated the 30th of November 2016. Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, that's the plaintiff, and versus the Attorney General, first defendant, and the National Media Commission, second defendant. This is a matter of the LI 2224, the Content Standard Bill. Now, do you relate what's going on to what you went to court in 2016 to fight and which you won?
You see, I don't want to pass judgment on a prior case that we have won. Now, this is new, and the merits may differ. So that's what I mentioned, that we want to, in the same manner, like we always do, we'll carefully comb the heads and make sure that we get the right thing done. Look, if the station really has done something wrong, I bet you there are ways that we can resolve it.
Right.
Correctly. But I think NMC could have worked with the other bodies. If you move into, especially in these times, and we've tried to see that, we saw that we were part of a collaboration with the NCA and the NMC recently, and we're trying to bring what we call self-regulation more into the system and the use of the code of ethics to make sure that the media landscape is decent and good enough for everybody and safe enough. We should still work on that path. But since this has headed that way, we will take our time and go through. But I would not use a reference. I'm not an expert at this stage to use a judgment to determine the status of this current happening, but I think it's unfortunate.
I see. So if I got you right, you are saying that in all the correspondences, you were not put in copy. So you are just hearing this from the press, but not from the National Media Commission as you would have expected it to.
Johnny, you have copies of the letters. Okay. You would see that we have not been formally copied on any. There was a letter that came a couple of months ago on one issue to warn Captain Smart, one letter that was copied. That was a couple of months ago. I will get the date. But apart from that, all this conversation which has gone on, we are actually on the blind side.
I see. Mr. Cecil Sonkwa-Mills, thank you very much indeed for your time. He's the president of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association. We're grateful. I come back to you, Prof. So now you are presenting a report to the CDD, and then what? One of CDD's own, Professor Kweku Azar, says the NMC is supposed to uphold the media and not to shut it down. They seem to be singing the same song, but do you get a sense that the NMC will listen at all?
I think that it's a basic principle, but even listening to, the president of the printer, it tells you that there is something that is not officially, and I'm using that word carefully, being done. Because if it was that kind of official processes, you would expect the key stakeholders, underlined key stakeholders, would be informed. Now, clearly, that letter hadn't even been, copied to some of the key stakeholders we were talking about. And that actually tells you that perhaps they are mischievously, or some people are mischievously doing something just to curtail, the strength of the media house. Because obviously, what is the point in writing to Advertisers Association, knowing that they are crucial part of, sustaining the going concern of a media house, and not having copied other stakeholders, key stakeholders, in such a letter. That tells you that somebody is doing something diabolical. In the end, the process may curtail abruptly. They may not pursue it, but the damage had been caused. So I could see a certain mischief, someone trying to use a certain power given them inappropriately to curtail the power of the media house, but this will go nowhere. So it is very strange. And if it happens like that, if it happens that somebody, unofficially or somebody inappropriately did that just to curtail the strength of the media house, that individual has to be dealt with, or the group of people have to be dealt with. Because this is certainly not on. You haven't even begun a process. You write to a key stakeholder to say, don't do business with this entity. For what purpose? For what, point? So I think that I foresee them curtailing the process, in the end, withdrawing whatever procedures they want to apply. But then the damage had been caused. And in that case, I think that Media General may have to sue whichever group that has actually intended to do this.
That has happened yesterday. The suit was filed at the High Court.
Absolutely. We have to stand up, to them, because I don't think that this is due process. I don't think that this is democracy. I don't think that this is diversity that we crave for. Someone somewhere is trying to be mischievous, and we have to stand up to such practices. We shouldn't allow that to happen.
Professor Mensah, I thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful.
Thank you for having me.
That's Professor Kobe Mensah. He is a political and brands marketing specialist. 15 minutes after 9 here on 3FM 92.7.